Magistrates, like myself, are volunteers sourced from the community who sit in courts and bring their experiences and values to the decision-making process. We're not legally trained or required to have legal qualifications, and that's because throughout the process we're supported by a legal advisor. In the criminal courts, our job is to deal with the cases before us, and that can be hearing trials, sentencing those convicted or those who pleaded guilty, but it can also be matters such as considering warrants. To become a magistrate, you have to be over the age of 18 and under the age of 65. Additionally, the selection process looks to identify personal qualities such as maturity, reliability, awareness of social issues, but you also need good character as well to uphold the integrity of the court. So the 6 key qualities that are sought in those applying to become a magistrate are good character, understanding and communication, social awareness, maturity, sound temperament, sound judgment, and commitment and reliability. Beyond those specific qualities, I found that an ability to understand documents, follow the evidence, and communicate effectively is essential to the role. So magistrates aren't required to have any formal qualifications, and that's because it gives local advisory courts who select and appoint magistrates the best opportunity to recruit local and experienced people who understand the community they serve. After you're appointed, you'll get full training for the role, and a legal advisor in court will help you with the questions about law. I first took an interest in the courts from my voluntary role at the local Citizens Advice Bureau. Learning about how witnesses can be supported piqued my interest, and before applying I took the time to visit my local magistrates court and sit in the public gallery and observe the proceedings. When we retire as a panel to reach judgment, we consider the evidence that we've heard, and usually we begin by referring to our notes and identify the undisputed facts. We'll then usually look at what is contested and decide which side or which part of which evidence we believe. That is perhaps the hardest part of the job, reaching that judgment, but it's one area where you're always supported by your colleagues on the bench, whether that be the presiding justice who you're with or the other winger. Magistrates sit in youth courts, the adult criminal courts and family courts. As a criminal magistrate, my job ranges from hearing trials, sentencing those convicted or those who've pleaded guilty, but it can also be matters such as considering warrants. That responsibility is a solemn responsibility, but being a part of the process that ensures justice is delivered in the local community is something that I found to be very rewarding. The reality of this role is that you are a volunteer, and whilst enjoy is perhaps the wrong word, there are many elements that are rewarded. Invariably, there are going to be times during your career as a magistrate where you have to make difficult decisions. But one thing that I find incredibly reassuring is receiving the support of colleagues on the bench in that decision-making process, and being part of that overall process that is delivering justice in the local area. So I think the first step for anyone who's interested in becoming a magistrate is to visit your local court and develop an understanding of the work that magistrates do. From there, you'll be able to see how the court works and what's expected of a magistrate, and then you'll be able to look at whether those qualities and those expectations of magistrates is something that aligns well with your skill set and your experience. In my case, I'm a law student, and I found it incredibly easy to fit my required sit-ins around my studies. Magistrates aren't legally trained, and there's no requirement to have a legal qualification, and that's because you have a legal advisor who supports you during the decision-making process. But I found that the combination of being a student and volunteering within the courts extremely valuable, as you see the real-world application of the law, and you see the tangible elements that often get lost in an academic sense. As a magistrate, you're required to sit for either 13 full days, both morning and afternoon sessions, or 26 half days. I'm sure colleagues would back me in saying that this is incredibly workable, and in most instances, magistrates do a lot more than the minimum requirement. And that's because it's something that is rewarded, and something that magistrates really do enjoy. The hardest thing about being a magistrate is that decision-making process. There are some times where you simply don't know, and that's completely normal. There's a reason why there's both a prosecution side and a defence side. In every instance, though, that's been resolved by colleagues on the bench, and talking through things is how you come to that decision. That process of talking things out and coming to a decision is something that is rewarded, because you really feel like you have worked through the issue. So the bench, which is really just a panel, is the layout of magistrates when we sit. Usually it's a presiding justice who's the chair, who's the most experienced magistrate, combined with two wingers. The two wingers are there to sit and observe and understand the proceedings, while the presiding justice will ask all the questions and be the mouthpiece of the court. When retiring, every member of the bench or the panel has equal say in the decision-making process. The chair doesn't have any more say than the wingers, and often wingers will remember things. They'll ask questions directed to the chair, who will then ask them, that often the presiding justice will forget. So each role is integral, but it's about utilising that experience in terms of using presiding justices to be the mouthpiece in court, and then also wingers are there to support the presiding justice. So as a magistrate, there's no requirement to have any legal qualifications. So when you're in court and you're sitting as a bench, you're supported by the legal advisor, who offers their guidance on points of law and issues and any problem surrounding the law. That is intrinsic to your decision-making process, as you'll defer to their advice on the law and then take your opinion of what actually has happened in the immediate case before you.